Ever wonder what Christmas in the summer is like? Well, for King and Country, well, they may just have an idea.
So we're having a barbecue on the beach, and yet we've adopted all of your American songs and traditions. And so you find yourself singing like Frosty the Snowman. Like we joke that we have Frankie the Sandman, or like chestnuts roasting on an open fire. If there's an open fire in Australia at Christmas, it's a bushfire.
And this is CIA, Contagious Influencers of America. I'm David Sams. That's right, we have the biggest pop rock band in all of Christian music with us right here at the homestead today. I'm talking about Luke and Joel Smallbone from For King and Country. Now, they've collaborated with the likes of Dolly Parton, Lady A's Hillary Scott. They've won all kinds of awards. They have all kinds of number one radio hits, won 4 Grammys, and their headline tours are always sold out. And coming up in December, they are heading out on their Drummer Boys Christmas Tour. And boy, that's going to be really cool, the Drummer Boy Christmas Tour. And it's going to be something to really see. And if you can't see it, they're going to have something special in theaters beginning December the 5th, a Drummer Boy Christmas Live, the cinematic concert experience. That's on December the 5th through the 9th. So if they don't come to your city with their live tour, you definitely want to go see their cinematic experience in your local theater. So let's get to my interview with Joel and Luke. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the homestead.
Hey man, thanks for taking the time to hang out with us.
Yeah, this is quite nice. We just got to hop over in our own American hometown of Nashville and spend a morning with you.
Good stuff. I'm going to ask you just to move it a little bit that way. Okay, perfect. Yeah, wonderful. Good. You know, I have to tell you that this has just been a remarkable year, just watching everything that you have going on. How would you rate this year compared to all the others before?
I mean, that's a fascinating thing to think through, because I think every year feels like it has, I think for all of us, these great new adventures, right? And so you start the year, and in our kind of line of work, you've got at least a loose plan for the year, but it doesn't necessarily mean that plan goes exactly according to plan, if that makes sense. And so I think for us, releasing a movie, going back to Australia, which is obviously where we're originally from, doing a tour back there, then having this fall tour that we're launching, then a Christmas show, Christmas concert film. There's plenty going on. Yeah. And I don't know if I could rate it better or worse than others, but it's been appropriately busy.
Certainly a full circle moment, I would say, with releasing this film about our mum and dad and them losing everything in Australia and moving to the United States. And Luke and I were very young at the time, but nonetheless kind of offering this story to the world. We've told it at shows, but not in film form. It was just fascinating to sort of step into the movie world in a way that we never have before. Not only with Unsung Hero, which America made it the number 2 movie in America when it released, but then also stepping in this Christmas with this live concert film, which we used the same film crew and director of photography from the movie to capture the show. And so it's a very cinematic, theatrical affair like you've never seen it. So it's been a year of full circle moments and a year of theaters for King and Country.
What would you say the perception has been? I mean, what post release of Unsung Hero? Yeah. How do people look at you all now versus before the movie came out?
It's an interesting question to ask for all of us, right? How are we perceived, and how do we're all changing and evolving all the time, right? Throughout our life. I will say, so often, I'll admit myself, I've been very lazy with people's stories, because you only get this snapshot of who someone is right here, right now, in front of you. Mm-hmm. And yet there's these incredible highs and lows and joys and sorrows that they've faced throughout their life that have led them to this point. So the exercise for us of diving into this film, Luke producing it. I literally play our dad in the film, which I dubbed a very expensive therapy session. But like just diving into his shoes, he's putting on his literal jacket from 30 years ago. The empathy that it provoked in us as kids, as adults now, rather than when we were kids, is really profound. And so I don't know how much it's changed the way people look at us as much as it's really shifted the way that we look at maybe ourselves or our parents or their story coming over. And for the better, I would say too. I think we will find 2024 will be a real stake in the ground moment for us as a family going, wow, that was not only a culminative moment, but it was also a shift in our mindset of how we looked at our parents and their journey.
Eddie DeGarmo is a good friend of mine. I just want to know what he said to when he saw the movie for the first time.
He said, my house wasn't that big.
That is what he said. And I think he also said, my hair wasn't that big. Yeah. But it was, Eddie. It was. It was very, what do they say, feathered or teased? Or, right. Early on. No, he was a great sport, wasn't he?
Yeah, look, we've obviously known Eddie since we were young children.
And Key for the old schoolers out there.
And I think to have someone that has kind of walked alongside our journey for that long, kind of see it come together, and to be in a theater with him at one point and him kind of soaking it in and take it his wife. It's a joy to be able to have. I've often said that it's very difficult to acquire new old friends, and Eddie's been an old friend for many, many years. And I think that stories have a unique way of growing and changing, and he was one very, very key person in our story as to how we are having this conversation here today.
I just love Eddie DeGarmo because he has that real low,
he does,
slow,
right
voice.
This is going to be a special Christmas season for you all,
right? And
boy, you've jam-packed it with all kinds of goodies, all kinds of gifts for us. So let's start out by talking about the album, and what makes it unique.
Well, this is we talked about this off air. This is the most Christmassy Christmas that For King & Country has ever had, and we've had a fair few, pivotal Christmas years as a band. And it's a common year because when we started out in 2012, we shoved ourselves into a factory. We didn't have a Christmas album. We had no Christmas singles. And we said, we're going to come up with all these Christmas renditions. And one in particular was this version of Drummer Boy, where we basically took the most obvious version of the song. This is a song about a boy playing a drum. And so we were like, let's put a load of drums on this song. And so from performing it on, CMA Country Christmas on ABC to performing it, I don't know how many consecutive years on tour now, to releasing an album called Drummer Boy Christmas. And now we're at this sort of kind of, again, full circle moment where we're releasing a Drummer Boy Christmas live into theaters across America and maybe even the world. And then also, as you mentioned, this live Christmas album. And we're excited about the live Christmas album because so much about what Luke and I love to do as For King & Country is live. And yet we've not really offered folks many live representations of us. And so this was captured towards the end of last year at a sold out show with 11, 12,000 people in Houston. And it's just really electric. And so we're proud to be able to not only put it in theaters, but then put it into people onto Spotify and Apple Music and Pandora and all the rest of them this Christmas.
So I know in Australia you had no Thanksgiving. I'm assuming you had Christmas, right?
Yeah, we're not that far gone.
Yeah, no, we're not very thankful people in Australia, evidently.
So what was Christmas like growing up?
It's hot. That's probably the biggest change. I'll never forget. We came over for our first Christmas in America. And it snows, all right? So we're outside Christmas making snow.
Our little boy brains fell out of there.
It's an amazing, amazing experience to see snow when you don't grow up with it. Well, then several years later, we go back to Australia and we have a Christmas in Australia. And I think it was unanimous in the family. It's like, the Christmas in Australia won't work for us anymore.
No.
We need to go and have it be cold.
It's a very, very confusing thing in Australia because it's the summer, like Luke said. So we're having a barbecue on the beach, and yet we've adopted all of your American songs and traditions. And so you find yourself singing like Frosty the Snowman. Like we joke that we have Frankie the Sandman, or like chestnuts roasting on an open fire. If there's an open fire in Australia at Christmas, it's a bushfire. Like you need to run. You don't need to like write a song about it. And so we finally, when we did come to America, like Luke mentioned, and it snowed, we were like, this, all of a sudden, Christmas made sense for the first time, you know.
I think you just came up with the song idea.
Frankie the Sandman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just adapt all those with what you just
That's
said.
good.
There you go.
That's good.
That's right.
Another one of our favorites was "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas," because it was like that made a lot of sense to us. It's like you're definitely dreaming of a white Christmas in Australia. You know.
So when you were growing up and you had Christmas in Australia, what were some of the traditions you had as a family?
Most of the time you went to a beach, you know, you went, and obviously it was usually with family. It was very common to go out and play. You guys don't know this sport, but cricket. We have
crochet.
I know. We have a big cricket match the day after Christmas, which is called Boxing Day in Australia. So usually you're going to watch it the next day. So you're on Christmas Day, you're out there playing cricket together. You know, you're doing very similar things, getting together. But in America, you're not usually outside.
Yeah, you're wearing your swimmers.
You know, you go. Yeah, you may go for a swim in the ocean. You know, and so it's very different. But obviously, it still is similar in that you're spending with people that you love.
And Santa Claus still makes it all the way down there, surprisingly. It's a long way down.
See, I just think the opposite. I think, well, wouldn't it be great to be in the ocean at 85 degrees at Christmas time versus the cold weather with no sun?
Go and spend a few Christmases in Australia.
Go to Australia. You'll see how you like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the album, and tell us about some of the goodies on the album.
Yeah. Well, like we said, this is really, the album is a companion to this live cinematic film that we captured last year. And the thought process was, you know, we see these concert films and you're always sitting in one perspective. You're sort of sitting up in the rafters or you're looking at it from one POV. And we wanted to kind of bring the audience up close and personal. And so we brought in the film crew, like I said, from Unsung Hero, the movie, actually, and captured it in a way that we've never captured anything before. And so visually and sonically, we had an Emmy award-winning sound mixer, put it in 5.1. And so it's kind of it's a whole new experience. I don't even know if we realized how special it would be. You know, we captured it on faith that this would be something that we could put into theaters and put on streaming platforms. But it really has come together in a beautiful way. And so the album is all of these, you know, for King Country original Christmas songs, as well as, you know, Silent Night and Drummer Boy and Emmanuel and some of your favorites, with this for King Country flair, but also, you know, 11,000 people singing these songs. And it's really, you know, as I said before, it's really quite an electric experience. And so our hope is that, like most of what Luke and I have done as a band, is that we can accompany people through their Christmas season. You know, that this live show in theaters will be a bit of a pageant or a play or, you know, a family moment for kids and parents to get together, and also that we'll be able to reach onto people's phones, into their homes, into their cars with this album, and create some memories together with this music.
So let's talk specifically about Silent Night. You know, which is definitely probably my favorite song, because growing up, my dad's a pastor and would have a candlelight service, and it always ended with Silent Night, right? Yeah. So let's talk about your rendition of that.
Well, you know, even going back to what you were asking about, you know, kind of the album as a whole, part of my hope for the album, the live album, is when you go have that church experience like you were just talking about growing up, the favorite moment for everyone is Silent Night with the candles. And so our hope is to bring that moment into the everyday, to be able to have your own personal silent night when you're taking the kids to school, to be able to have your own personal silent night when you've got a fire going at your house and you're putting up the stockings and you're putting up your Christmas tree. To me, those are the memories when people ask you about the good times, right? They're talking about those specific memories. And so for us, it's our hope to be the soundtrack to those memories, you know? And so I think for Silent Night, we do it in our own for King and Country way, but in some cases it's this delicate balance of not doing too much, but also not doing enough, And so for us, our hope is that this version of Silent Night is one that you can listen to with great ease, but at the same time with great intrigue.
And to your point, David, it's the one moment that we have a pyrotechnic safe carols by candlelight moment in the show where we have everyone switch their cell phone flashlight on and we just light up the arena. And we're actually in the middle of the room. We've gotten on this pod and we've hoisted about 30, 40 feet in the air. And it's just this, it make me cry. Just this, you're celebrating this song that's celebrating the meaning of Christmas. And that is, God coming to earth as this vulnerable child and the impact that it had from that day to this and continues to have, and you're singing it unanimously in this pivotal moment. It's you feel it on the recording. It's quite emotional, and visually it's one of the most kind of captivating moments of the whole cinematic experience with these lights, just a sea of lights out there.
Now I've heard you several times during the interview talk about your love for really production.
Yeah.
I mean, that keeps coming through. Even more so than music, making music. No, it's interesting how you have these multiple talents, and at the end of the day, you don't just you don't just hire them out, so to speak. How much time do you guys really put into thinking through a production?
Too much.
Obviously, a film.
It's an appropriate question to ask today because we're literally right in the throes of one of the most terrifying.
Look, you got to know a little bit. You spoke a little bit about the film earlier, and what's changed or whatever. Well, most people now know, but probably didn't know that was our training ground in some cases. I mean, I was a lighting director. Probably
it was always visual,
far
sound
too young.
And visuals.
Joel was a stage manager, so we grew up as a crew. As just doing. Our older sister's an artist by the name of Rebecca St. James.
Sure.
So we grew up doing that, and so I think for us, being an artist is an interesting thing because it's not just music. It's not just interviews. It's not just the live show. It's kind of all of it. And in some cases, I think for both Joel and I, we want to be involved in all of it. That's part of what I think is interesting and attractive. Obviously, the music's got to be great, but the show's got to be great. Yeah. The production's got to be great. There's got to be intrigue. There's got to be interest. And so I think that we really do enjoy I don't know if the game is the right word, but the game of trying to figure out how do I make this... How do we make it world-class? How do we make it captivating?
And it always starts with the music, doesn't it? But I think what's interesting about this year is that it's such a visual year for us with Unsung Hero and now this live cinematic concert, and it's taking the sonics and putting pictures to it, and that's always been really exciting to us.
And how much did you get that from your dad?
Oh, have you met Dad, by the way?
Yes.
You guys share a name. We talked about this. My middle name's David. Josh, who's just sitting to my left, his first name's David. So Dad basically named all his kids David in some way, shape, or form. But
it's like George Foreman named all of his kids
George, right. That's it. It's an interesting question, David. I don't know if we've ever kind of put it like that.
I don't know if he ever was the one to necessarily give us that love for it. He gave us the ability to practice
and
it.
He did guide us. I remember even with Rebecca, we talked about Rebecca St. James, like when she was just starting out, she would just do these avant-garde movements, on stage. She had no moving lights or, this was before the production, and all she had, she was playing tracks. There was no backing band. And so and we're almost, so they were very attention getting, I'll just say that, and almost sort of bizarre. So I do think he's always had that flair for like the theatrical. So yeah, I would say we have pulled a bit from him for sure.
So this truly is a family affair. I mean, what you got going on here? I mean, you could not have done this just the two of you.
No way.
Yeah.
No, even you speak of our production. Our oldest brother Daniel he's the live concert designer. And so. You go through, obviously we've learned most everything that we know today from, working with our older sister. And then we've got our brother Daniel, who's, the lead designer of the show. And then we've got our brother Ben, who have done X amount of music videos, made films together. And then obviously it's Joel, myself, our next little brother, Josh, I often joke that I work for him. And then our little sister's been a part of creating, all sorts of different things for us. So yeah, family, it's funny, we're talking about Christmas, but family to us is, it's incredibly complicated, but incredibly purposeful and incredibly meaningful. Yeah. And I think that as we get to gather around for Christmas, family becomes even more powerful. And to be able to have done it for as long as we've been doing it together for the most part is I think something that we look back on and are very proud of to this day.
No doubt.
Christmas is great, but it can be also very difficult for folks in many ways.
Yeah. Particularly this Christmas. I mean, I feel like political half the country was going to be very upset either way.
Mm-hmm.
How do you navigate that? And I think one of the things that Luke and I have been very fortunate to sort of experience in this family dynamic is we're all very different people. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is the greater question that we're asking ourselves as a country right now. We're both American citizens and we married Americans. We love this great land, and that's part of the reason we go out and travel and release this thing into theaters to hopefully point people towards each other, point people heavenward, point people towards love and hope and these great attributes of Jesus and what it means to be a good human. But it doesn't change the fact that, man, you get into these environments and you can be triggered by something someone says, and you can feel very unseen by those that have seen you most of your life. And that's very real. And there's a lot of, we leave a lot of space. And the truth be told, there are some families you just can't do it. It's too hard. And that's, you can't force yourself into those situations. I do think, showing a bit of love, the showing the hallmarks of what this Christmas season is actually about, which is, God coming to earth while we were still in a mess, while we were still sinners, as the good book says. Not when we got our business sorted out. He came into the mess. Sometimes I feel like we can just practice a little bit what he did. We can go into the mess at Christmas and go, not even just tense up, just embrace the mess. Go, hey, this is the mess of my family. Mm-hmm. This is the mess of what it means to be human. But thank God for Jesus. Thank God for love and hope and joy and peace, because maybe we can actually have these great attributes in these hard, heavy moments. Maybe.
So you all experienced, at least as depicted in the movie, you all experienced a couple of difficult Christmases. What was that like when you first got here?
I think that for us, we got the gift of a little bit of struggle, because we got to see the local community really come around and love on us. Some of I think that my most cherished memories were some of those early Christmases where you're unsure, excuse me, when you're unsure as to what Christmas was going to look like. We got to see what generosity looks like. We got to see what kindness at Christmas looks like. And I think it's shaped us to the point of now I think that we get the privilege of being able to ask ourselves, well, what can we do for somebody else this Christmas? And I think that's probably what I would say to most people that are listening to this, is sometimes it's a wonderful thing to be able to receive, but it's a far greater thing to be able to give. And I think it's important for us to be people that are on the lookout for what we can do to someone that might be hurting a little bit, or someone that just needs a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of love. You'll be amazed at just the simplicity of, I get to see it with my wife and I. We got 4 kiddos. You'd be amazed to see just what a little smile from one of these kids to someone else can even do. So it's a wonderful season, I think, of opportunity for all people.
So, what traditions have you established since you have been in America for Christmas that you want to carry on with your kids? Or what things are you coming up with?
Yeah, look, I mean, for us, our favorite thing at Christmas time is on Black Friday. Instead of going to the stores, we go to the Christmas tree farm, and we go, and it's in our little town where we live, it's kind of like I don't want to say it's the thing to do, but there's all the local community comes out, and you're picking out your Christmas tree. And so you're picking out your Christmas tree with your neighbors, whether or not they're the ones that you know or not, but they're your people. And so just being in and around those moments and making these memories, I think that for us, it's our kids so far. Our oldest is going to be 12 this year. It's still his favorite thing to do is to go get the Christmas tree. So then we take it home and we set it up, and we put on the Christmas music, maybe put on a Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life or something like that. And you make these Christmas memories together. And that's just a tradition for us. That's just a reason for us to be together. You're doing something a little bit special, but it's the being together that makes it remarkable. It's being together that makes it memorable.
One of the things we did that we somewhat depicted in Unsung Hero when we were kids is we, Santa Claus, like I said, makes it all the way down to Australia, but he doesn't. By the time he's gotten there, I think he's too tired to actually wrap the gifts at that point. So we actually put like either some sort of sack, like a pillowcase that we've decorated, or even a rubbish bag or something at the end of the bed, and we'll go to sleep the night before. It's almost like our version of a stocking. And in the middle of the night, instead of coming down the chimney, because again, in Australia it's warm, so we don't really have many chimneys, he will sneak in. So it's actually kind of creepy. He will sneak into the room. He'll eat a bite of the chocolate chip cookie and have a bit of the milk. And then he will fill up the bag at the end of your bed. And so you'll wake up magically the next morning and it's all full of presents. And the first Christmas, particularly, we were here, we weren't going to be able. I remember Mum coming and saying, "Hey, Christmas is only going to be, Santa's only going to be able to bring us gifts from the dollar shop this year." And I was like, "Mum, Santa's not dictated to by our financial situation. He's gonna pull through." So, unbeknownst to us, a first grade school class found out that we weren't going to be able to give each other gifts, and so they helped Santa Claus in America. Our first Christmas in America. They said, make a list of all the things your kids want. And so we made a list, and we had more presents that year, David, than we'd ever had. Mm. So it was this oxymoron. Like, we had barely any furniture in the house. We were barely making it by. And yet Santa Claus had just shown up in full swing. And I remember going to Mum on Christmas Day and being like, "Hey, see, Santa Claus
comes through,
Yeah.
I just want to ask you finally, let's talk about the word hope.
Yeah.
And,
good word.
What responsibility that word carries with you all.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I'm having too much latte.
Hope. Should try a milk substitute,
That's
bro.
right. I don't like that. It's going to kill you faster. Hope, it's funny. Just being a child, when I thought of that word, it was, I'm hoping to go see my friends today. I'm hoping for a great, baseball game or whatever. And I was reading the other day in the Bible, and someone said, one of the kind of cliff notes was saying that in the Bible, hope is a certainty. And yet in the English, they don't know how to translate it perfectly into English, because we translate it as hope, which is a little bit like
it's wishful thinking almost.
I hope that this will be this way. And so for my hope, my hope for this Christmas is that when people are using the word hope, they're actually declaring a certainty of where they find that hope. And because when you are certain of something that is that big, that massive in Jesus, it transforms the rest of the way you live. It transforms your Christmas. It transforms your receiving. It transforms your giving. And so to me, I hope for people this Christmas for that hope to be a certainty, not just something that, as Joel would say, is this wishful thinking.
Yeah, wishful thinking. It's interesting. We faced a similar issue with the word joy. We actually wrote a whole song about it, and these great pillars, if you will, of the fruit of the Spirit, love and joy and peace, patience, they can all become these sort of fluffy hallmark versions of themselves, where they're not an ideal anymore. They're not something to choose or not something to strive for. They're something that someone should give to you versus you reach out and grab hold of, And we found with that song, it was a really actually particularly hard song to write, because how do we give it weight? How do we give joy this idea that we can reach out and we can choose it every day and we can grab it every day? I think it's similar with hope, right? How do you get to that place where instead of it being just simply wishful thinking, hey, I hope and a prayer, that you set an intention. It's vision. It's almost like there is this great hope. No matter all of this calamity, there's this great hope that I can reach out and I can pursue it and go after it and attack it, versus just idly sitting by a fast food restaurant and trying to order it and it show up in 15 minutes.
That's good. So looking forward into the next year, how in the world do you top 2024?
I don't think.
I don't mean to put any pressure on you.
No. You go away is what you do.
I think that I don't think you ever compete against yourself, right? Or you're not even competing against anyone else. Everyone's on the same team.
Oh,
right?
I compete with myself every day.
Well,
David.
maybe you shouldn't.
And other people.
So next year is going to be a year of creating, new things. We need a little bit of a breather, if that makes sense. But I think that when it comes to new music and creating that, and potentially a new film, the 2025 is going to be the year of creation. And so when we have more information, we'll share with you that more information when we get to it.
Well, guys, thanks a lot for stopping by the homestead and spending some time with me. It's been fun.
Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for having us, David. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Doesn't that feel good?
Ho, ho, ho.
You actually sort of...
You do that too well.
You sort of slightly look like a Santa Claus at this point.
I've been told that many times. Well, thanks again, Luke and Joel. Thanks for stopping by the homestead. I know you guys are so busy, and for you to take the time out to visit with us, very, very special. Make sure, folks, you go see them on tour. Make sure if they don't come to your city, never fear, go see their cinematic experience in theaters beginning December the 5th. And of course, you can also listen to them. They're going to be co-hosting our Keep the Faith Christmas Marathon and also our Countdown to Christmas Marathon. The countdown airs on Thanksgiving Day and the Black Friday on most stations. And of course, the Christmas Marathon airs on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day all across America. And we want to thank our friends at Curb Records for being supportive of Keep the Faith. Until next time, I'm David Sams. Go out there and live that life in living color, because it sure is a heck of a lot more interesting than living it in black and white. And by the way, Merry Christmas.